My greetings to everyone. In the ongoing series of Art of Being Happy, today we will be talking more on the physiological aspects of the happiness. Now we will be talking on the positive outlook on the future and happiness. Happiness and general well-being are actually incredibly correlated with one another, with a hopeful view on the future. It entails a very positive outlook, concentrating on possibilities and chances and nurturing the optimism in the future. Now, future optimism has a very substantial impact on the emotional fortitude, drive and a general life happiness. So, first we will be talking on emotional well-being. Emotional well-being is correlated with having an optimistic attitude on the future, and the people who are more optimistic frequently have a happier life, more appreciative and more hopeful feelings. And as they view difficulties as transient and have faith in their abilities to overcome them, they are able to handle the stress and the hardships, and the greater sense of satisfaction and fulfillment is a result of emotional toughness. The next is your motivation and goal pursuit. A hopeful view on the future motivates people to work towards important goals. People are more inclined to establish the challenging objectives, then persevere in the face of challenges and take proactive measures to realize their ambitions when they have a faith in the future. The future optimism acts as a motivator, boosting drive and eventually resulting in more satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment. Then we have is the optimistic perspective and the well-being. Those who are optimistic and frequently adopt a constructive and upbeat perspective. They see the positive side of the events, concentrating on the potential fixes rather than wallowing in the issues. And this upbeat view lessens the tension, worry and the unpleasant feelings, which enhances both the physiological and the physical health. So people may start a good cycle of happiness and the well-being by keeping an optimistic attitude on the future. Next we have resilience and adaptability. These traits are actually boosted by a very hopeful attitude on the future. The positive people see failures and the setbacks as chances for development and the learning, because they believe that they are only temporary. And they are more inclined to overcome these difficulties, change their tactics and keep working towards their objectives. So this sense of mastery and success that is fostered by the resilience increases the pleasure and fulfillment. Next is we have a social support and connections. A very hopeful attitude on the future attracts and fosters the supportive social networks. The positive energy is exuded by optimists who are also more inclined to interact with others and build a lasting relationships. Now, these relationships offer the opportunity for the shared experiences, emotional support and a sense of belonging, all of which enhances the happiness and the general well-being. Now, it is very pertinent and very crucial to remember that having hope for the future does not involve dismissing or disrupting the reality or obstacles or the problems. Instead, it entails developing a very positive outlook that will really help people face the life's ups and downs with the fortitude and optimism. People may improve their happiness, well-being and general quality of life by developing an optimistic outlook on the future. People may improve their happiness, well-being and general quality of life by developing an optimistic outlook on the future. Now coming on to the cognitive skills for happiness, mindfulness. Now a very important key factor in fostering the pleasure and general well-being is mindfulness, a potent cognitive skill, the purposeful concentration of attention on the present moment. It is actually a key component of mindfulness, which has its roots in age-old contemplative practices. People can actually improve their cognitive skills and create a good mentality that leads to happiness by practicing mindfulness. So the first is the present moment awareness. The mindfulness helps people to learn totally present in the moment, letting go of the concerns about the past or the future. People may enjoy life basic joys, fully engage in activities, and keep happier and more contented by keeping their attention in the present. The next is your emotional control. The mindfulness enables people to recognize and monitor their emotions without passing a judgment. Individuals can actually improve their ability to regulate their emotions by adapting a non-reactive and receptive attitude towards them. People who practice mindfulness are happier and more content because it enables them to pause and acknowledge their emotional states and respond in a more thoughtful and the proportionate way. The next is your stress reduction. So people should strive their efforts in response to a triggered problem by regulating their mindfulness practice, which calms the body and the mind. So people may manage the stress more effectively, resulting in a better mental and physical well-being as well as increased happiness. So by being aware of their stress triggers and implementing a mindful practices. Next is their self-awareness and self-compassion. So mindfulness encourages people to notice their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors without passing any judgment, which actually helps people to develop the self-awareness, and individuals will learn their thought process, their behavior patterns as a result of their improved self-awareness. Then, the self-compassion is another benefit of mindfulness because it enables people to treat themselves with love, affection, understanding, which actually promotes a pleasure and a sense of self. Next is improved concentration, and the mindfulness training entails the teaching of mind to maintain the present moment concentration. The development of the attention skills improves the cognitive function and concentration. The mindfulness encourages people to participate completely in a task by decreasing the distractions and improving the mental clarity, which results in a stronger sense of the success and enjoyment. Next is a mindfulness promotes the development of an attitude of appreciation and gratitude for the present moment as well as the people and experience in one's own life. So people may focus on what makes them very happy by making it a practice to notice that acknowledge the good things in life. This cultivates the appreciation and improves the overall happiness. So this cognitive performance, emotional health, general happiness can all be significantly improved by incorporating the mindfulness in everyday life through formal meditation practices, unstructured period of attentive awareness. So people may build a very positive outlook, increase their level of self-awareness and embrace the present moment with a higher sense of contentment and fulfillment by learning the mindfulness as a cognitive skills. Now, cognitive skills for happiness, mindfulness and the physiological well-being. As a cognitive skill, mindfulness has a substantial effect on our physical health as well as our mental and emotional health, which adds to our overall pleasure. So, we can experience the physiological changes that improve our well-being and establish a favorable physiological foundation for pleasure by incorporating the mindfulness practices into our lives. The first is the stress reduction and the relaxation response. The second is your improved immune function. An important factor in our general health is our immune system, which has been actually linked to the mindfulness. Increased immune response related brain activity has been correlated with a regular mindful meditation. So mindfulness can actually improve the physical health by boosting the immune system, lowering the risk of sickness, increasing our physiological resilience and happiness. Next is your better sleep quality. The research has actually shown that mindfulness can actually lead to a better sleep, which is very crucial for maintaining a physical health. Our bodies need sleep in order to repair and regenerate. The practices of mindfulness can assist to calm the mind and encourage the healthy sleep, such as attentive observation of sensations before bed or nightly relaxation techniques. Better sleep enhances the general physiological health and helps provide a physiological foundation for happiness. Next we have is the management of chronic pain disorders and overall well-being. Mindfulness-based therapies have showed potential in this area. People can develop a non-reactive attitude towards pain sensations by focusing their attention on the current moment without passing a judgment, which lowers the emotions and the physiological reactivity connected to the pain. Additionally, endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, are released when mindfulness techniques are used, which actually helps with the pain control and the general well-being. Next is we have a mind-body connection and awareness. The mindfulness techniques promotes an improved somatic awareness and a more profound mind-body connection. Individuals can recognize tiny physiological changes and react with the self-care and self-compassion by developing an attentive and non-judgmental awareness of the physical sensations. So this improved mind-body connection promotes the physiological balance overall, boosting the well-being and laying the groundwork for the happiness. Next we have is a lessened inflammation and a cellular health. The chronic inflammation has been linked to a number of diseases, including the heart diseases and the several mental health issues. According to research, mindfulness techniques may reduce the inflammatory indicators in the body and have anti-inflammatory benefits. The mindful supports the physiological well-being by enhancing the cellular health and reducing the inflammation, creating a very favorable physiological environment for the happiness. Our daily lives can actually benefit greatly from incorporating the mindfulness techniques, as it can promote relaxation, boost the immune system performance, support better sleep, manage the pain, and reduce the inflammation. By cultivating a pleasant physiological state, it supports the general well-being and satisfaction. We lay the groundwork for happiness by nourishing our physiological well-being through mindfulness. Now coming to emotional skills for happiness, resilience and the physiological well-being. The emotional talent of resilience is essential for fostering the happiness and the general well-being. It encompasses the capacity to overcome obstacles, adjust to the difficult situations, and have an optimistic view. Now, resilience lays the groundwork for happiness on the physiological level by impacting not only our emotions but also our physiological well-being. The first is the physiological regulation of the stress response. The resilience aids people in controlling their physiological reactions to stress. The resilient people have a more balanced stress response when confronted with the difficult situations, reducing the harmful effects of the stress on their bodies. The resilience helps to maintain a better physiological condition and promotes the general well-being and happiness by skillfully handling the stress. Now next is your cardiovascular health. It has been shown that the resilience is associated with better cardiovascular health. The low levels of stress chemicals like the cortisol, which is linked to cardiovascular hazards, are more common among the resilient people. The resilience promotes the cardiovascular health and helps to a healthy physiological underpinning for happiness by handling the stress level and keeping a very positive outlook. Next is your immunological function. The resilience strengthens the body's defense system by having a very favorable effect on the immunological function. According to research, the resilient people have a superior immunological response, including more natural killer, health activity, cell activity, and making an antibody synthesis. The resilience encourages the physiological well-being and enhances the general pleasure by boosting the immune system. Next we have is a regulation of inflammation. The depression and the cardiovascular disease are two illnesses that are linked to the chronic inflammation. It has been discovered that the resilience can control bodily inflammation. Low levels of inflammatory markers are more common in the resilient people, which promotes a more favorable physiological environment. The resiliency helps to increase the physiological well-being and happiness through controlling the inflammation. Next we have is a sleep quality. The resilience is associated with high quality of sleep, which is necessary for restoring the bodily functions for achieving the peak performance. People who are the resilient are more likely to have healthy sleep habits and get peaceful, refreshing sleep. The healthier life is supported by better sleep, which also strengthens the immune system and improves the physical health. Next is we have a physical recovery. Recovery from disease or damage physically depends on the resilience. Positivity is a trait to the resilient people and it can aid in healing the process. So their capacity for flexibility, perseverance and the self-care routines encourages the physiological recovery and builds a sound physiological foundation for happiness. So people may improve their physical health and lay the groundwork for happiness by developing the emotional talent of the resilience. Some of the physiological advantages of the resilience include the effective stress management, cardiovascular health, immunological function, inflammatory reduction, increased sleep quality and the physical recovery. So building the resilience promotes the happiness and a healthy physiological state by supporting the overall physiological well-being. Now let us come to a very pertinent topic called interconnectedness between the physical exercise, mood enhancing physiological well-being for happiness. Exercise is a potent tool for boosting both the physiological well-being and happiness. Physical activity and mood are profoundly interconnected. Regular physical activity builds a strong physiological basis for happiness by improving not just our physical health but also our mood and the mental well-being. The endorphin release and the mood enhancement. Exercises triggers the release of the endorphins, which are neurotransmitters that naturally uplifts the mood. The endorphins lessens the perception of the pain, enhances the emotion of well-being and support the sensations of joy and eco-stay. The exercise induces the release of endorphins, which leads to a favorable physiological state that promotes the happiness and emotional well-being. Next we have is a stress reduction and the cortisol control. Exercise has been shown to be a very powerful stress reliever. Exercise releases dopamine and serotonin, two chemicals that aid in relaxing and sensation of peace, as well as the cortisols. The main stress hormone which helps in reducing the cortisol levels. The exercise leads to a more physiological balanced condition, promoting emotional well-being and happiness by controlling the stress hormones. Next is your better sleep. The regular exercise has been demonstrated to lead to a better sleep, which is very, very important for both physical as well as a mental health. The quality, length, effectiveness of the sleep are all improved by the physical activity. Increased happiness is a result of the physiological process supported by the restorative sleep such as immune system, health, hormone control and the general well-being. Then we have a neuroplasticity and the brain health. The exercise helps the brain becomes more plastic or able to change and recognize itself, particularly in the regions of brain connected to mood regulation and emotional processing. The physical exercise increases the creation of new neurons and improves the connection between the brain cells. This neuroplasticity enhances the mental agility cognitive ability, and emotional fortitude, all of which support a very healthy physiological base for happiness. Next we have is the energy and vitality. The regular exercise boosts the vigor and the well-being while boosting the energy levels. Exercise stimulates the transport of oxygen and the nutrients to tissues. It strengthens the heart and increases the physical endurance. Exercise results in an increase in energy and vitality, which actually promotes a very healthy physiological condition that supports the happiness and the emotional well-being. Next we have is a physique, image and self-esteem. The regular exercise has a favorable effect on one's perception of one's physique and self. Physical fitness, body composition, the general look may all be improved by exercise, which can really help one feel better about their bodies. This improved body image can actually increase one's self-worth, self-assurance and general well-being, which can actually support a healthy physiological base for the happiness. Next is we have the individual's taste and skills differ. So, selecting the fun exercise options is very essential for long-term commitment. The exercise beneficial physiological and emotional impacts can be maximized by participating in activities that are in line with the individual interest and preferences. We actually foster a favorable physiological environment that fosters the emotional well-being and happiness by regularly engaging in physical activity. Now, some of the physiological advantages of exercise include the endorphin release, stress reduction, better sleep, neuroplasticity, greater energy, and good body image. Now, maintaining an active lifestyle promotes the happiness and a healthy physiological condition through supporting an overall physiological well-being. Next is we have the role of accomplishments in happiness, fostering the physiological well-being for fulfillment. Achievement, when includes both emotional and physical aspects, is very crucial for promoting a pleasure and the general well-being. Our physiological well-being is influenced by a variety of physiological factors, including the pursuit and attainment of worthwhile goals and also the accomplishments. The first is a dopamine and reward pathways. The dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to a pleasure and reward, is released when the goals are attained and a sense of accomplishment is actually felt. The dopamine causes a pleasure physiological reaction and supports the motivational and happy sentiments by activating the reward pathways in the brain. Dopamine is physiologically released to promote the happiness and also the contentment. The next is your self-efficiency and confidence. Now, reaching objectives increases the self-efficiency and efficacy, which is the conviction that one can achieve in the particular circumstances or the task. The self-efficacy improves the resilience, lowers the stress levels and fosters the general self-assurance, all of which have a good impact on our physiological well-being. A happier and more feeling of accomplishments oriented physiological state is supported by increased self-efficacy. Next is we have the stress reduction and the cortisol regulation. The next is having a sense of purpose and well-being. Next is we have a brain plasticity and the cognitive functioning. The next is your physical health and vitality. So people may improve their happiness, feel accomplished and take care of their physical health by attaining important objectives. So some of the physiological advantages of success include dopamine release, greater physical health and vigor, high self-efficacy, reduced stress levels, feeling of purpose and brain plasticity. So, a goal-oriented attitude can actually improve one's entire physiological well-being, which can increase the happiness and fulfillment. So, the perspective and the mindset in the happiness shaping a physiological well-being for a positive outlook. So, happiness and the general well-being are greatly influenced by perspective and mentality, not only on the emotional and cognitive level, but also at a physiological level. A favorable physiological environment is actually created by adapting a positive outlook and developing a growth-oriented attitude which supports the physiological well-being for the happiness. So, the stress response and the physiological regulation, emotional resilience and stress management, neuroplasticity and brain functions, immune function and well-being, cardiovascular health and vitality, pain perception and coping, and for the purpose of influencing the physiological well-being and happiness, it is actually necessary to cultivate a positive outlook and growth-oriented attitude. Perspective and mentality create a favorable physiological foundation for happiness by controlling the stress, fostering emotional resilience, fostering neuroplasticity, supporting immunology function, increase cardiovascular health, and affecting a pain perception. So, fostering a growth-oriented attitude and a positive view on the life promotes a physical well-being and produces an atmosphere which is very conducive to the overall happiness. So, have a good physiological well-being for happiness. Thank you so much.